can't hear you.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I think we're all here. We got plenty of attendees, and we're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and start. And today we're going to do our webinar on real-time POP production, moving reporting to the production floor. And Bruce Hollinger, who is our managing partner here at WiSys, he's also the original founder and CEO of Macola from 1982 to 2002. And he's going to take you through a little bit of a quick presentation just to kind of give you an overview of our POP model and where we're going with our POP product. And he's going to do a nice demonstration, and then we'll follow it up with question and answer. So if along the way you have any questions, just, I don't know if you see on your GoToWebinar panel, you can actually type in some questions. So feel free to do that, and then we'll answer those questions at the end. We'll have a Q&A session, probably last 15 minutes or so. So without further ado, go ahead and start it up.
Hello, this is Bruce Hollinger, and I want to thank everybody for taking the time today to attend our webinar. I hope you'll be monitoring our webinars in the future. We're trying to do one of these at least once a month, and hopefully you'll find this to be a very informative session. I know we have customers in the audience as well as people that are probably less familiar with WiSys, so I'll try to be fairly broad but deep enough that if you are a customer, that there's an opportunity to learn something new here today. I'm sure we have something new for everybody. I'd like to start off by saying that WiSys has been probably considered over the years as primarily a WMS company, which actually is our core competency in our founding roots. But as we've moved on into other areas, we've expanded WMS into supply chain management, and over the last year, we've expanded even further. So our new product directive is much broader, and we're positioning ourselves with our new product directive of operational performance management, which really covers everything from operational intelligence, business intelligence, to notification services, to back office workflow, obviously WMS, and other operational execution components, all the way down into the production floor. And speaking of the production floor, the one key piece of that, which is also going to bring these other elements together today as a part of our technology stack, is I'm going to talk about real-time POP production and moving reporting to the production floor. And when I mean it moving it both with mobile devices and with desktop solutions, but wherever the first touch point to the organization is, the intent is to make sure that that transaction is captured at that point in time. So let me talk about, get my screen to advance here. A little bit about experience. When I mean experience is both our experience as an organization and also hopefully your experience working with us. And I start off by saying that we're really trying to redefine how you leverage your investment in Macola systems. I've been involved in the ERP space now for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of evolutionary changes. But one of the biggest evolutionary changes that we're focusing on is this concept of real-time ERP. I've looked at ERP as, a lot of people use ERP as a recording environment. Transactions are latent to the system. So our concept, and you'll see today, is, if in fact every transaction in the system, from production reporting to movement of inventory, could be real-time, then it would really change the paradigm of how Macola ERP would affect your organization. And if you think about the concept of your customer service people having visibility into when materials on the shipping dock, when they can make commitments to customers, when materials coming in the door, operations people to have much better visibility of inventory. When you actually can compress the supply chain, compress inventory turn times, then you're taking costs out of the system and you're improving your ability to deliver customer service. And that's what I hope you'll take away today from where we're trying to go as an organization. And to do that, we're backed by a development team with over 100 years of Macola experience, beginning with its founding. And we've really been trying to extend the functionality of Macola ERP. We've done that in a lot of ways. Many of you know that we have, and I'll talk about our technology stack, we've rebuilt many of the components of Macola into a transactional .NET-based framework of object technology. I know that objects don't mean a lot to everybody, but it really means breaking down Macola into transactional elements. And once you do that, you can start redefining how those transactions interact. We're going to do that through what we're going to talk about today as a composite transaction of stringing transactions together. But in the POP model, we've actually changed a little bit about how Macola actually does the material issues and transactions. And that's something I really want to get across today, that the POP model we're presenting today really changes and extends the boundaries of how you've really considered POP can function for your organization. So the operational performance management stack of products starts with operational intelligence or business intelligence. And I'm going to focus on that a little bit with a product we call Agility. And this is how I'm going to view data throughout the whole demo today. And I'll be mostly viewing data through our interface components, and I'll spend very little time in Macola itself. We have what we call an operational execution layer, and in that we have something called ACT, which is an acronym for Agile Composite Transactions. And the whole concept of ACT is a very broad topic, and hopefully in the next couple of webinars you're going to get a complete overview of ACT. We've done a little bit we've exposed ACT a little bit in the past, but it's gone so much further today, and we'll be talking about it in the next couple of months. So I'll show a little of that today. And then also we are, and our foundation and our core competency is WMS. So warehouse management will be a key part of the presentation. From there we move into other supply chain elements like pick, pack, and shipping, which we're not going to be talking about today. We're going to try to keep this webinar and some of the future ones fairly specific and stay on target to a certain part of the elements of our framework. And then we're going to talk about production work center reporting, where a lot of the WMS pieces are going to be based on mobile technology, where the production order work center reporting piece is really a desktop piece. And I'll talk about why we consider that to be a better solution. This is, again, all built on the Agility framework. And the Agility framework, again, is this concept of really us building out the framework of Macola transactional components first to allow us to actually build on those transactional components in a real-time transactional world. So every transaction we ever do in any of our product solutions are instantaneous. And everything is built on .NET. Now Agility, and I'm not going to talk about Agility a lot. I'm actually going to focus on just a couple of key screen areas. Can do everything from doing functional dashboards, executive level dashboards, down to complex analytical solutions, all built on the tool set that allows you to build your own views. I'll show you a little bit how we can do that from a user side, not with a designer tool, but to just actually tweak some views and see the data we want to see, and all the way to integrated crystal reports. The warehouse processes that we would normally talk about in the full SCM operational transaction would be everything from PO receiving to production to shipping. And I've grayed out shipping here because we're really going to just focus on PO receiving and manufacturing. And we're going to certainly talk about finished goods, but we're also going to talk quite a bit about movement of components, how those components get issued to a POP order and then get consumed. Now you would think, well, they obviously just get backflushed. I mean, there's not much to consumption of material, but that's not true at all. How we time the consumption of materials, how that happens in our transactional model is not like how you would traditionally think of POP. Well, probably if you've had any familiarity with shop floor, it's much more like a shop floor transaction. But everything starts with PO receiving. We need to get those components in the door. We need to use bin locators, put that material away, so that we can identify that material so that it can be issued correctly to the job. Now, the bill of material today is our strawberry jam. And we're doing this as a food product, but the reason I picked this is, and we are going to show quite a bit with bins and lots, and we're also going to introduce some other another transaction called production backfill that actually is a much more even leaner POP transaction that you're accustomed to seeing. But what we found is that if you're happy with the traditional backflush POP model, and all you really want to do is just record component consumption, then we probably don't have a lot to offer you. But if you really want to create a real-time POP environment, or if you're in the food industry or FDA compliant, or even things like steel production, where the actual consumption of material on the bill of material does not necessarily match the backflush. And this happens a lot, where in this case I may have to use additional rice starch in the process mix. So anybody in a batch reactor type environment would be exposed to this, where they need to actually record real-time actual materials to a job. Then I think you're going to find this to be a very interesting presentation. So what we've got is we've got the natural strawberry mix, the natural strawberry jam or whatever it is we're making at the top here, and we're going to use some strawberry seedless puree, some organic rice starch. The corn syrup slurry is something we're going to make up as a bulk item, and I've got a consumable here of even water, which is a zero-based cost item, which is really a bulk item issue. So, and we're going to start with the PO receiving model, and with that we're going to bring in allotted raw materials. We're going to do PO receiving. Now, many times in an allotted material environment, people would like to introduce an inspection process. And if you've tried to use Macola's inspection receiving, there's a little bit of a problem, and that is that lots are not recorded until you get to the disposition stage. Well, in our world, where transposition of elements is just not practical, and we do not want to have lots inside the organization and are not recorded inside the ERP inventory system. It's not part of our real-time philosophy. So we're going to look at a little different way of managing bins and putting them through our own process of hold and release, and use that as a different solution to inspection receiving. So we're going to go through a lot release stage, and then we have to go through that before we can do a put away and into a storage bin. And that'll be the workflow of receiving. Then I talked about production backfill, and we've run into people that say, I have material that I just need to record. It's stuff that we just make up, and we need to record it after the fact. So to do that, you need to create a POP order, release the POP order, produce the POP order, so that you can, consume the raw materials. Well, this is what we call a composite transaction. What if we created a whole new business process where we create, release, and produce all in one? So this is kind of different than the staged issue concept that I'm going to show and talk about in a minute on my material model. This is the reverse. This is where we have even a leaner backflush solution than POP would normally do, but we do it all as one transaction step and still go through standard Macola processes. We're going to use that for the corn syrup slurry, which is a non-lotted item that we just keep in bulk, and now and then we have to remix with water and corn syrup bulk, which is a purchased item. But mostly we just need to record this as a backfill type thing that, we mix it up, fill the vat, and then we just keep moving and recording. Now, if you look at the Macola material model for POP, normally material would be physically issued to production. And when I say physical, we talk a lot internal to WiSys about matching the physical world with the transactional world. I mean, the only way you can reach a point of real-time ERP is when the physical world and the transactional world come together. And I used to like to talk about a term, or we used to talk about this all the time, called global inventory, which stood for go back and look. And that's what happens when material physically leaves the shelf, goes out on the floor, isn't recorded in Macola until a backflush transaction happens. And then all of a sudden we're consuming that with a bunch of pop-up screens trying to type in lots off the transposition of a piece of paperwork. Well, in reality, if you go back and look at that shelf, that material's gone. It's not there anymore, and it's not recorded in Macola, and yet Macola says it's there. So you can't reach a real-time solution if material is not going to be recorded till after it's been moved. If it leaves the shelf, it needs to be recorded. So this kind of changes the paradigm of how you look at material movement within the POP model. Another thing I want to mention is if you're transposing lots, and this is something that people came to us and said, you know, we don't believe the bin layer and the lot layer work in Macola, that there's problems with it. And I can tell you, if you record material correctly into those layers, they work exceptionally well. And the only way to do that is to make sure, like we use with a mobile device, that we record them and we validate them real time. You make one lot error and come back, then you have to reconsume a lot, then all of a sudden that lot's not there because you recorded the wrong lot. It's just a cascading set of errors and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So change the model. We have two items here. We have starch and we have the base strawberries that need to really come off the shelf and be issued from bins and go out in bulk. For when I mean bulk, like off palletized material or fairly large scale measurements. And these need to be moved out to the work center. So in our case, what we need to do is, since these are lotted, we need to do a material issue. And in some cases, you're going to see we're actually going to do a return as well, because we're going to overissue material, because we're going to issue it in a palletized form or in bulk, and sometimes you have to consume things in bulk, move it to the floor, and then move it back and re-record it back into the inventory system and know where it is at all times. So we're going to show both those transactions. But when we do issue this material, we're going to real time, at that time, issue the lot to the production job. So it immediately leaves inventory. It is recorded as an offset WIP transaction until it comes off the balance sheet in final production. So this is how the production demo is going to work. I talked about the PO demo. This is the production demo. We're going to have some lotted bin raw materials that we're first going to receive through PO, and then go through inspection, and then we're going to do a put away. Then we're going to reissue these through POP issue. It's going to go through POP finished good reporting, which again is going to be a real-time production. Once we do that, we're going to have the ability to immediately print labels and through a document management system, which I'm going to talk briefly about how we manage documents and how we simplify that process. And then we're actually going to build that finished good to a put-away bin. That could be an inspection as well. And then finally, put away to the storage bin. And then we're going to have some material left over, so we need to go through a POP return process. Okay? So those are all the things we want to show today that I think comprise different components of POP. We'll be showing you both POP MPO receiving on the mobile device, and we're going to be showing you POP on the desktop as it would exist on the shop floor or on the production floor. And we're going to look at how the back office would view that as the material moves through an agility layer. So let me get down to the demo. I'll shut down PowerPoint. And let me bring up a couple of applications. First off, and I think some of you have seen some of our early webinars, I'm going to introduce you to agility and our demo database. Now, I'm going to be living mostly in two transactionals. One screen's transactional, and the other one really is an inventory master list that's going to allow me to pretty much trace material all the way through the organization. So this is our inventory master list with the ability to have views and to open orders, item masters, POP orders, just about anything going on for that item at any given time. And then we have this lot inspection release, which I talked about ACT being the acronym for our actionable components, and I'll show you how we're going to integrate that as well. So let me start off by looking at our demo data. Now, I've got a lot, as you can see, if you're familiar with the Macola demo bike database, that we have a lot of material in here that is unrelated to our strawberries. So I thought maybe the best way to do that is to come in here and kind of figure out how we're going to identify that particular material. So what I did is I took a user-defined field, okay, and these are just extra columns I can bring in, and we're going to call this demo because this is going to help me identify my demo material. I put a D into these into these so I can actually identify them. So now you can see that we've got some items out here, and they look a lot like the items that I just went over in my PowerPoint. This is the master item. This is our strawberry jam. And first thing I want to do is to go into the item master for that item. And like any item master, I have the ability to view all the tabs you would normally think are in Macola that we've made up. We've put this together with a tool set. We just thought we'd recreate some of the foundational views in Macola. Only the big difference here versus Macola is in any given view, I've got the ability to see and grab just about any column that I would consider important. So we've been when we build these views, we build them as very robust views. You can build additional views that may be more specific to how you want to view data, and then you can just link into the views that we provide you. In this case, we also have a bill of material, and you can see the slurry mix that we're going to be making out of the corn syrup bulk, and then 2 other allotted and vent items that we need to purchase. Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, and then also for starting out, just so you know, we also have an open pop order. So we're not going to be creating pop orders. We already have an unreleased pop order in the system. And again, this has the 3 raw components you saw on the PowerPoint. So primary point here is that I can navigate from manufactured good to purchased goods, because obviously also some of this stuff has to be purchased. So I also have some things here on POs as well. So I've made it simple. I bought all my ingredients from one vendor and we'll be receiving those. Okay. So a couple other issues that I want to go over is preliminary to the demo to make it clear. We have some flags set in WMS setup. Bring that up, and under Pocket.es setup and under POP, we're going to be recommending serialots is one thing, and then let's see. I've set up. Well, let me think here. Well, oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention was the receiving. Oh, sorry. PO receiving, that I've set the serialot hold on receiving flag. And what that's going to do is I receive the lots into inventory, it's automatically going to put them on hold, and it's going to set the hold reason code to QC, which is a maintenance table that you can set up for yourself. The other thing we did is we used our own serialot builder. And you'll see this as we build the finished good for POP. And you'll see that we've defined 3 segments. Now, any lot can only be 15 characters long, so you can only make up so many. Now, Macola, you can only have 2 segments. In this case, we decided to make up multiple segments. We've got a Julian date, we've got a static global component, and a sequential global component. And you can add other segments in here. Obviously, I can't add beyond 15. But if you want to add your own segment, we give you pretty robust lookup options. You can actually do a table column option where you could actually use the POP order number as actually part of the finished good lot. So we give you a lot of unique ways of building lots. So the next thing I want to talk about is document management. And in this case, we're going to have multiple documents. I mean, we're going to have a pick ticket document. And then we're also going to have a POP reporting document. And in this case, I actually have this defined twice. I have one document defined for all items, another one defined specifically for this particular parent item. So you'll actually see a document print twice in this case. So these documents are nothing more than crystal reports that can be easily just edited. So you can just open these and edit them and refresh them back in the system. We make it very simple to do labels, whether it's on the handheld or on the desktop, because everybody understands crystal reports. So that's how the documents are going to be printed today. I'm not going to be printing any documents directly to the screen on the handheld. All right. Another piece that I'd like to talk about is pop pick tickets. And that also helps us kind of view data. This is kind of another console screen. Products like this are slowly getting merged into the Agility product, but this product's been out for some time, and it has a lot of the same kind of user-defined components where I have the ability to sort data any way I want. I can come in, customize. Maybe these aren't the fields I want, so I can add a very robust set of predefined fields. I have everything even from OE header. I might even be able to look at pop orders that have a promise date, and I can bring that up and look at that as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can set up your production and define how you want your pick tickets and work orders to be generated. Now we actually have a pick ticket here, which I think is more robust than work orders, and I showed you could actually have multiple documents. So you could have a work order and a pick ticket as well. And in our case, let me see here. We have one production order that I showed you over in Agility, and you can see it's in red. And red means that there's not enough material to fill this order and it's unreleased. So if I go in and show the captured bill, I'm actually short on all components. So the first thing I need to do is start receiving material so I can fulfill this order. To do that, we're going to go out and start doing some receiving. So I'm going to bring up a view of the handheld. And this is the handheld bit it's in a framework skin here that we created to make it look a little more like you would see a handheld. But this is actually how the handheld works. It actually works through a server, so I'm running the actual handheld software directly. Now let me get set up here, because the way the handheld works best is everything needs to be barcoded. I mean, and the one thing about a mobile device is that you have a fairly limited geographic area here for your screens and your UI. So you need to be able to barcode for one, because we're going to be validating everything on the floor, and two, we need to be able to perform these tasks fairly rapidly with very little, with as least physical work as possible. So I'm actually going to log in here. Okay, and we're going to do some receiving. And we got to be a PO98 that I'm going to scan. And you'll see the first thing we need is to receive the strawberry seedless puree. And we've got a receipt quantity. Well, we're going to receive the whole quantity. We have 2,000 pounds here. And I need to receive that. And actually, my vendor was nice enough to actually make sure that I received all their material is pre-lotted. So I actually am able to scan those lots as they come in. And I'm going to receive those as 2 pallets of 1,000. So since I just restored the database, the first transaction takes just a little bit longer. You'll see the rest of them are instantaneous. So it immediately brings up the next transaction, which is the sugar. So this is the sugar beet granules. I'm going to bring that in, and I need to receive those. Wait a minute. Wrong lot. And we're going to receive that all to one lot. And you'll see that that was an instantaneous transaction. So now we have the starch to receive. And I need to receive 100 of that, 100 pounds. And I need to scan the serial lot for the starch. And the last, which is a non-lotted item, is the corn syrup bulk, which we're just going to receive directly in for 400 pounds of that. And now we're done. Now, as I said before, that these lots actually, though, came in on hold. Because remember, we set that flag back and set up to do that. So what I need to do now is go back to Agility. And I need to go over to Lot Inspection Release. And the first thing I'm going to do is hit this refresh button. And it's going to bring up all these lots that are on hold. You'll see that these are on hold and that their set hold reason is quality control. Now, normally I would probably go through a process and maybe check these off and make a decision which ones get released, but I'm just going to make a global decision to do that. Now, if you were in Macola and you were doing that in the traditional sense, and this is where we get into ACT, but really I consider it really back office workflow, because you're redefining how a process works. Because if you didn't have the ability to map transactions directly to analytical grids, then you'd be forced to run a crystal report, which I'm sure many of you have had to do, and then you would go into the serial lot master, and we would look that item up and have to enter all this information. Wait, I got the wrong one here. That's the finished good. I think it's, yeah, we'll start with that. I'll find it. No, it's, I'll bring up the strawberries. Yeah, now I'm on target. Sorry about that. So again, I'm on hold here. So I have a lot, and I would bring that up off a crystal report, and then ultimately I would have to find it, which obviously I just had to go through that process instead of just identifying everything that is on hold. And then I would change its status to available, and then I would save it. And I would have to do that multiple times based on crystal report. Now, I'm assuming that instead of having a demo set of data, that in reality, I could be looking at a fairly large number of transactions. So what I've done is I've checked all these, and then in just one button, they're all released. So now all these lots have been released, and that does a couple things. Number one, it allows me to move them. Up to this point, I was really at a point where I want to do a put away. Now, a put away really is nothing more than a bin transfer, because I really have all these items sitting at the RCV, which is our receiving dock. And so I bring up all the items that are located at that receiving dock. And for some reason, we happen to have a white shirt and a stem sitting out there as well. I'm not sure what that has to do with our strawberry business, but we do have the, we had two 1,000 quantity lots that we have to put away. We're going to put those away to two different bins because we're palletized material. Okay, so I'm going to take the 1,000. Okay, and now I have to find a bin. So I happen to have, I'm going to actually pick this pallet up, and I'm going to take it over, and I'm going to put it in A101. And now that item's been put away. And then now it's recommending A101, but I'm going to actually take the next item to a different bin. and put it in A102. And then I've got the, I need to put the sugar away. Okay, and I've got 400 of it. And let's see, the sugar is going to go into A103. Actually, I just put that, I think, in A102. And now I'm going to put the starch, which is another 100. Okay. That is going to go into A104. All right, I'll just follow the recommendations later when it tells me where they're located. So now I've done the put away, and we received the material, we've released it from being on hold, and now we've done the release. So now let's go look at where we stand on getting this production done. I'm going to do a refresh, and I still see I have a problem here with this order not being able to be released. Okay. Well, remember our slurry. We've not created, we don't have enough slurry. So we're going to have to go create that slurry. Now to do that, I'm going to, remember the production backfill? That's how we decided we're going to create the slurry. So I'm going to come back here to POP. And this is the desktop POP product. And you'll see, as even though it's a .NET product, a lot of other products look quite different. When you look at our shop floor product and you look at our POP desktop, these products are built with extra large fonts and maybe for touch screens and barcoding, and they're set up so that they can be used on the production floor for simple data entry. So first off, I'm going to create a backfill POP order. And to do that, I need to come out and I'm going to scan the item for my slurry. And you can see here, as we had set this up, that I've got 2 backflush items, and actually the water is really a bulk item, so I'm just going to backflush the corn syrup bulk. And now I've entered just the item, and I've entered the location and a quantity. And now I'm going to hit create, and that's going to go out, and it's also going to print a label. Okay? So what I want to do now is I want to go back to agility. And I want to go back to our master, and I want to, when I come back here and I look at our manufactured items, which we can just kind of isolate those, here's my corn syrup slurry, and you'll see that it's telling me I have a POP order out there now. And this POP order was automatically created, and it was closed. It automatically issued components. I only had one issued component because the water was a bulk issue. Now, from a material model, you'll see that a little bit different from Macola. Even when we do a backflush, which is basically what we did, even though we did automatically create and release, this is pretty much a pure backflush environment. But because we can mix, I'm going to show you how we can mix backflush with issues, we still offset every distribution transaction with a WIP transaction to allow us to balance WIP at a later date. And that's also true with the production side as well. The production is going to have an offset. And then if I go look at the distributions, in this case, I'm standard cost, and actually I have a perfectly balanced world just because I had one item going into a parent item. I'm going to show you how variance would come into effect if, in fact, the material roll-ups did match the standard cost parent, which we're going to get into. And we're going to get into variations in that because my variances can change every time I produce my strawberries because I actually don't know exactly how much slurry I'm going to use. I have an idea, but it's going to change. And therefore, my variance is going to be a value that we're going to be tracking and evaluating and monitoring. So I'll show you how we go about doing that. And we can do variance in an average cost roll-up concept world, which I'm not going to get into. It's a little more complicated, as well as we can in a standard. And anybody's had to deal with variances with different material recordings in Macola has found that takes a lot of extra steps where we just do that automatically. So now what I need to do, because I've created our slurry, is I need to go back and look at the fact that now we have enough material to actually do some production. But the first I need to do is issue material. So I'm going to come back, and now remember that I have one backflush item, and I really need to issue the lotted material. So I'm going to bring up pop issue, and I'm going to enter the 115 order, but I have that. Actually, before I do that, I'm missing another step, and that is this order isn't released yet. So I want to do that right from here. I don't want to have to go through another process. So I'm going to, first off, I'm going to unflag that item down there. And then I'm going to come down here to 115, and I'm going to release that order, and then I'm going to flag it, and then I'm going to print a pick ticket. Okay? And here's a pick ticket. You'll notice that there's recommendations here as well in terms of what bin to go to. Now, I did not barcode on the pick ticket the bin and the serial lot, and I didn't do that for a reason, because we don't want people barcoding the lot number. We want them to go shoot that lot number, which we will, on the item on the shelf. That's the only way we can get true validation of what lot left the shelf and went in. And that gives us traceability, and it makes sure that our layers stay intact. So I don't need to print that per se because I've already done that, and it's going to ask if it printed correctly. And I'm going to say yes. And now we've got a printed pick ticket, or we could have also done a work order as well. So let me bring back the gun. And now I can shoot the order. Okay, so let me shoot that. I have the work order pick ticket right in front of me. Okay, and now I need to pick the component, which is the strawberries. And it's saying that the quantity is 950, but I'm actually going to, because I have a pallet, that's the recommendation, but I'm gonna send out 1,000 pounds, as the closest to the recipe that's asking for. And now I need to tell what bin to take it from. So it gave me that recommendation, which it told me it was A101. And it gave me a lot recommendation. So I'm going to take the lot. And then, but I'm going to take 1,000 pounds, a whole pallet. And it's telling me that it's actually replacing the original recommendation with 1,000. And now I'm going to accept that transaction. Okay? That's one component, but I got one more component that's non-backflush that I have to, so I need to do the starch. Okay? In this case, it's asking for 54 pounds, but this just happens to come in 100-pound bags. And that's just what I have. So that's, as a recommendation, was telling me to go to 104. So I'm going to go to lot 104. And I'm going to physically travel over there. And I shot the wrong one. Try that again. Okay. And then I'm going to take the recommended serial lot, which is 05. Okay. In this case, that's 100 pounds. And yes, I'm going to replace that. Yes, I'm going to accept that as a transaction. Now, at this point in time, I have not done any production. Okay? So I go to Agility, and I'm going to go out and look at my strawberry jam, and I'm going to go look at open pop orders, and I don't have any production, but what I do have is issued components. So you can see here that prior to doing any production, and if you're familiar how Macola works, I've actually got control numbers here. I have an order number. This is an actual issue transaction out of the IM inventory tricks table with the linked geo distributions, and both of these are offset by WIP. and I've actually issued it out of inventory, yet I haven't done a production yet. Yet these transactions are associated with that order, and beyond that, I know the bin they came out of, and I know the serial lot numbers that are actually associated. So I've already actually associated the serial numbers, or the lot numbers, I'm sorry, with the production prior to doing any production, which would make sense because I had to take it off the shelf. This is committed inventory. I can't later on have somebody make a mistake and commit that lot to something else. And I certainly can't afford a mistake where I record a different bin, and all of a sudden I'm running around the warehouse trying to find material in bins that the system says exist but don't. And this is exactly why the timing of the transaction is very important. So, okay, so we've done the issue, and now I believe it's time, and we've overissued, actually. Actually, if I go into, that's one I want to show you is that open pop order. And I look at the bill of material history, I'll see that I originally asked for these quantities, but I have these quantities outstanding, and I actually know I have an issued variance out there. Both of them are close to 40-some pounds each. They're sitting, that is over issued. Probably some of it will be consumed as actual production, and then whatever's left, we'll weigh it and put it back. So we're going to have some starch left, and we're going to put some of that back. We're going to use all the strawberries. Okay, so let's see. Keep on track here. The next thing I need to do is do some production. So I'm going to go in and bring up my work floor, and I'm going to bring up production on the floor. Okay? Now I have an order number. I have a pick ticket and a work order here that tells me that I got to make some strawberries. So we're going to make some strawberries. And so I'm going to put in the production order, and you can see here it's telling me that I'm not going to back flush, which is unique to POP. I mean, that's something you would see in shop floor, but in POP we actually honor this, that we're not going to back flush this material. We know it's been issued, but we have this slurry that we need to consume, and I'm going to consume that right off the bill of material standard. So you have both the concept of issuing material and back flushing material and backfilling material. I wanted to show all those different concepts of POP. And I'm supposed to make 50 totes of this. I'm just going to make it all at one time to keep it simple so the data will be easy for you to understand. I actually could do this in phases and look at production history on the floor, and but we're not going to do it that way. And you also see there's no close play. We actually set this up that I'm going to actually do two transactions. I'm going to have to come back and ultimately close this out. So I'm going to do a report. And remember, I set up the lot number to use a Jillian date and a static portion and then a global portion. That's already been assigned by the system. And I'm also going to create a label. If you remember right, I set this up to have a universal label and also to have a custom label for that particular item. So I have two labels produced. Okay? So I'm going to go back into Agility again. And now if we go back and look at that open pop order, we're going to see that we do have production. We've done the 50. And we've created a serial lot transaction. And so we can track, this is the actual inventory tricks transaction I went with that. We can look at production this way as well with the distributions. Or we can come back and look at the entire distributions for the entire transaction. And you're going to see here that we have WIP outstanding. We have two finished goods accounts. We've got the component accounts. And we have the, which actually I've shared a finished good account with the slurry and a finished good account with the final strawberry jam. Or we can look at all the asset accounts, or we can just look at the other component asset accounts, or we can say look at the WIP accounts, and then later on we'll look at the variance account. So just different ways of sitting here and looking at data. That's just part of agility and how you can drill down on information. But right now I have not closed it out. We don't really have a variance because I don't know what else I plan to do. Well, I do. I designed the demo. But what I'm going to show you next is what I promised, and that is we need to return material because we've overissued and know we have some starch out there. So we need to go back to the gun and close this out, and we're going to do a pop return. And we're going to do this again for the production order. Okay, and the component we're going to put back is we're going to put back the starch. All right, and you can see here it's telling us we have an extra material available. So, but it just turns out that all I have left, because I'm going to weigh it, is 22 pounds of starch. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to put that back into the bin I took it from as a recommendation, which is bin 104. And I'm going to put back the lot number I took out. And I'm going to put back the 22 pounds. And I'm going to record that as a return transaction. That's going to affect the variance because, now I have a situation where I decided I was going to consume all the strawberries. I had the whole pallet out there, and we actually made a little more, had some waste came off the conveyor, and so now, whatever's left, the strawberries aren't going to be returned. And that becomes a cost to the production. Now I returned some of the starch, so those costs are just naturally going to come out because it's just a return transaction is going to return to the general ledger, and we're going to balance out the WIP. So that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to go back, and we're going to close the pop order. Okay? And we've got order hang on, my little meeting bar there is in my way. So I'm simply going to close this out. And we've already done the 50 production. That's what I would report quantity and the order quantity are complete. Those are in totes. So we've closed out the production, so I don't need to go back to agility again. And at this time, I'm going to do a refresh. And you'll see what I did is I picked up a zero-based Z record because I did a final production close. And now if I go look at the distributions, I've got extra distributions here. And variance goes to $7,900. And we've done a calculated variance of $245. So the system's automatically closed out the transaction, closed out WIP. WIP should be closed out on my balance sheet. So WIP analysis shows that the total of all WIP goes to 0. Balance sheet's clear. All right, so the last thing I need to do is I've got my strawberry jam, and the thing I also said I was going to do in the demonstration was that we were going to go in and we were going to put the jam away because we've actually built this jam and we've put it on totes, and we're actually going to come back and actually make it available for sale. So it's just going to go into stock inventory. So I've got these 50 totes here, and so I'm going to take it all, and I have a bin already laid out that I've decided to put it away. So I'm going to put it in A106, and final material's been put away, and it's ready to be shipped. So with that, I've gone through all the workflow of the demo. I think you've seen, I hope that what you've learned from this is all the multitude of ways that we can record a POP transaction. And the way we've structured the WIP accounts, which isn't just unique to just POP. Actually, we actually designed the distribution model directly around shop floor. So, and I think you might have seen in the notes that we made a point that if you were a shop floor organization with one operation. And we've seen companies do this, that because they want to be able to manually manage the issues, like you can do that in shop floor using the same WIP distribution offset model, that people have then gone all the way to shop floor just to get that material model. We've tried to give you all the advantages of the POP backflush environment, adding even a leaner transaction with BackFill, and then on top of that, manage the WIP offset accounts. Now, those WIP offset accounts are there no matter how you do the transaction. It's done that way so that we can mix and merge all these different types of material models and then ultimately close out the transaction correctly and balance the GL account. Again, this has been modeled after shop floor, not something that we just made up as a whole new transactional model. But to create that bridge that I think that's been missing for a long time between when I get to the edges of POP and I run out of where I can go with POP and I have to go to shop floor, but I really don't need shop floor, and you probably shouldn't be moving there, probably unless you really need to be tracking more complex cost components and labor as well. So with that, I'll open up we'll open up to questions.
Can you see the questions there? You have a questions tab. And I've typed out one answer already. Maybe you can elaborate if you'd like.
Yeah. Oh, I see the questions tab. Drag this out. Yeah, the first question is, does this product work with shop floor? And yeah, it would work, just POP works with shop floor right now. So and oh yes, during return, I did not print the label, but you would absolutely want to print a label. There was a crystal label that was part of the document management system. We just decided not to print labels during the actual handheld demonstration. How does this integrate with routings? We really don't integrate with routings. We do the material model like shop floor, but if you really are at a point where you need a full routing model for whatever reason, then you're going to have to start looking at shop floor. We've just made that bridge a lot closer. Yes, Agility does work with Macola progression, and we've done a fairly complete overview of that product before. But not only that, but we've set up normalized views so that if you do use our views, you can actually write views in Agility to progression that'll transparently upgrade to ES as well. You don't have to do that. If you decide to stay in progression, you can just write directly to the progression tables. But all the Agility menu choices out of the box, whether you choose to deploy those or not. And by the way, all these have security layers. So I'm an administrative layer and I see everything, but you can lock these down or you can not use them at all and start with a whiteboard and start creating your own views. Maybe falling this upside down.
He was asking, what have you done or will you be doing for the value-added cost elements of POP?
The value-added cost of POP, this has actually been asked of us several times, as long as the cost capture table, basically we use the cost capture table. It would fit into the variance just like any other transaction. And what people have asked us to do is, in our desktop model, would we open up POP to allow you to enter value-added costs on the fly, and just like you can in Macola. We've contemplated that. We're just trying to figure out, and I've talked to some people on some designs. I'm trying to figure out how we can get to a fairly horizontal solution that would fit the industry as a whole. But we picked those costs up. You can actually create the pop order and release the pop order in Macola, but you need to finish the pop order in our model, because as soon as you start creating those WIP transactions, you can no longer do any production reporting in Macola. But beyond that, we would follow all the bill captures and the cost captures.
And the last question here, we got a couple more here. How would you handle defective material on shop floor?
Just a second, I'm trying to find out. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the question. Can you show me the? Is this the one you're talking about? Oh. Okay, the next question I see is, what I'm looking for is to automate the adjustment of the value-added cost elements. Is that coming? I think I just answered that. That is something we're looking for is, can you change the cost elements on the fly?
And you just skipped everyone here. The question was, how would you handle defective material on shop floor?
Oh, there you go. Okay. I think you're talking about like a material, not a reject. If you're talking about what would be similar to a reject transaction in shop floor, to tell you the truth, we wouldn't handle that straight up in our product. There is a scrap concept, but the concept of a reject could be managed. I mean, we manage the object transaction layer, and we actually have had people create, I know of one customer that has actually done that they created the concept of reject in POP on their own desktop. Now, they created their own desktop using our objects and made direct object calls and did what I would call a composite transaction, and then completed the, what they did is they completed the production, and then they issued that out and then received it into a reject item. And then that actually left a transactional trail as well. So if that's what you're looking for as an answer, we have not put that into our desktop as a direct transaction, but it wouldn't be that hard to do. We just have not had anybody request it.
I don't see any more questions coming in. I think they've pretty much stopped. So I think we can go ahead and wrap up here. I appreciate everybody's time here. We went over a little bit, just over an hour. We started a little bit late, but I appreciate everybody's time. We'll be sending out more alerts of future webinars here in the future, so please keep a lookout. And, of course, you can always contact Bob Hawk, bhawk@wisys.com. If you have any questions, we could certainly do any one-on-one demos with you. So if there's anything here you'd like to see further, we could set up an appointment with Bob, and we can take this a little bit further based on your own business processes. So thanks again. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.